So we got a brand new depth chest with 5 rod holders and a divider to keep the fish smell away from the drinks. Get my ice situated here, and let's go see if we can get some blood in the depth chest today. So well, after years and years of use, it's time to replace the old depth chest. One of the main reasons we want to replace it is because this green color absorbs heat like crazy, and the ice doesn't last in the summer. But if you look on these edges, it's all cracked. The whole ice chest is all dry, rotten, falling apart. And sooner or later, I'm going to lift it up, and the whole thing's just going to fall to pieces. It's cracked on all 4 sides. The whole bottom will pull out. So on this version of the depth chest, I keep it in the kayak like this, and I reach all the way back to get to the rods, and they're kind of hard to get to. So I think I'm going to try making a new one with the rods mounted along the back. I'll put it in with the rods on my left side and see how it works out. So the old depth chest is finally going to be retired. So in its place, we got a brand new Igloo Marine 48 quart ice chest. I like a big ice chest in the kayak. A lot of people like smaller ones, but you never know when you're going to hit them big or catch a monster you want to keep. And I just like to have a lot of storage area for fish. So to make the rod holders for the depth chest, I got 1.5 inch PVC pipe in white. I'm going to try to do everything in white on this one. So I'll make the rod holders, the brackets, and everything out of this 1.5 inch pipe. I'll cut the rod holders to 12 inches, and I'll cut the brackets to probably about 2.5. So I'm trying to figure out how far to have the rod holders stand off the back of the ice chest. I'm going to start off with these little standoff pieces at 2.5 inches. 12-inch rod holder with a flare, standing 2.5 inches off the back to where the lid can open and everything. So let's mock this up and see how some of these will do. So I got my PVC pipe, and I got it marked out to 12-inch lengths. And I happen to have a PVC pipe cutter, which just makes it easy. You can use a hacksaw or whatever you want to cut it. Regular carpenter saw or hacksaw will work good. So I cut my 12-inch lengths. So these will be my rod holders. Then I take and I measure out 7 inches. And 3.5, which will be the center of the 7 inches, to make the standoffs. So I'll go ahead and cut out a 7-inch piece. And I take that 3.5 inch mark, and I'm going to cut it, I'm going to drill it right dead in the center of the labeling there. Alright, for this part right here, for drilling pipe, I got a 4x4 with a V shape cut out of it, and I use that whenever I'm drilling pipe or something that's unstable to hold it. And I got a 3/16 inch drill bit to drill a pilot hole, and then I'm going to use a 2-inch hole saw. The 3/16 drill bit is the same pilot hole size as this hole saw. So let me line this all up to get a good center drill. So once I got my 3/16 inch drill bit in the drill press, I line it up to drop right down in the center of that V. Then I just take and line up my pipe, and I go ahead and drill the hole. It'll go all the way through both sides to where I'm even on both sides. So I just took the 3/16 inch bit out, and I'll put in a 2-inch hole saw, and it'll come down to the exact same hole, halfway on each side. Clear off a little bit of slag there. Get the side lined up. So you can see that that hole saw doesn't let it quite go all the way through to both sides, so I'll just take and cut that last little notch. And there we go. I'll take a razor blade and cut all this melted excess off. And then it leaves a little nib right here on each side. I'll take a piece of sandpaper and just run it across there. You can see once you got those cut and sanded, they fit right on the pipe perfectly. Gives you a nice finished look there. So the next thing I'll do is I'll take a heat gun, I'll slowly heat the pipe inside and out, and I'll take a funnel and I'll shove it in there to get a nice flare on the top of this for a rod holder. So you can see this one's already done here. Once I get that flare on there, I go dunk them in cold water and it'll take that set permanently. And I keep rotating it the whole time because I don't want it to burn it or yellow the end of the pipe. Not that it matters, it's just cosmetic. So once you get it flexible, you shove that funnel in there. Usually I use a beer bottle, but I don't have any empty beers right now, and it's kind of early in the day to be drinking. So once it's good and flexible like that, you take and you shove that funnel in there, and you can see it flares it out beautifully. And then I'll go stick it in cold water to get it to set. So once you stuck it in that cold water, it takes a nice permanent flared set for a rod holder. So here's our 5 sets of rod holders with the standoffs already made. And then I'll figure out how high I'm going to mount them on the ice chest. And I'll put a notch like this for the reel to drop down into when it's carrying the rods. All right, I think this is the layout I'm going to use. I got them spaced 5 inches on center, and that'll give room for the rod to be there and the handles not interfere. So if I open the ice chest fully up from about 1.5 inches from this line to the top of the rod holder, we got clearance when there's no rods in it. So then everything's laid out to drill the holes to mount through. So I need to be 2.5 or 7 inches from the top of the rod holder, or 5 and 9.5 from the bottom. I'll see however I want to lay it out, whichever side I need. And then it looks like one of them stanchions is a little high, cocking out on an angle, but I'll take care of all that. I'll juggle them all around. All right, so I measured up 5 inches and 9.5 inches from the bottom on the rod holder, and I got an 11/64 drill bit that'll fit a 1/4 inch bolt perfectly. Then I put a little mark on the bottom of my pipe right here that I'll line up in the bottom of that V, and I'll drill both these holes straight down through the pipe for alignment. Then once I got them both drilled, I'll take this 1-inch hole saw and I'll drill a 1-inch hole to be able to get through to the bolt and also to make a notch for the rod holder on that end. So let me go ahead and drill my alignment holes, and I'll drill my 1-inch holes. All right, I drilled straight through with 11/64 inch drill bit to give me an alignment hole, and I put in my 1-inch hole saw on here, and I'll go ahead and I'll drill 2 1-inch holes. That way I can thread the 1/4 inch bolts through, get a socket in there, and I can use this hole as the top notch part. So let me go ahead and drill these holes. See, so once I do that with the rod holder, I got the flared in. I got nice pilot holes straight through in both sections. So once I got my holes marked and everything, I'll clamp it in a bench vise, and then I'll just go right down through it with a hacksaw. And I'll clean this edge all up with sandpaper, and I'll round this corner a little bit here, and that gives my fishing rods a place to go right into and set, just like that. So I used tape to lay out a grid of where I want to drill on the back of the ice chest. So I'm going to drill into a brand new Igloo Marine ice chest. So what I'm doing right now is I'm mocking this up to see what size bolts I need. So that's where I'm going to want them. So mocking this up with one rod holder just to see how everything's going to fit out on it. So I got everything all drilled and all my parts made, and I got some stainless steel hardware with some great big fender washers so it don't pull through on the inside of the ice chest. And we'll slowly go through and put this thing together here. And I got a tube of silicone. I'm going to put a big bead of silicone on the back of these fender washers on the inside, just to, probably don't need it, but that silicone makes them slippery. And I'm using nylock nuts, it won't back out on here. That's what she looks like, all bolted together. Got to go stick her in the kayak and see. You can see with the lid open, it rests against the rod tubes down the length of it. I'll put some little protectors over the top of them nuts and we are ready to fish. So here's the depth chest in the kayak all set up, ready to go. This is the seat position I fish out of and travel out of. I'll have 5 rod holders on my left side to where I'll be able to make right-handed overhead casts without tangling all up like I have in the past. I'll fasten this down just like I do the current one with elastic bungees. And we are ready to rock. These Igloo Marine coolers have partitions in them for dividers. So I made me a cardboard template and I'm going to cut a cutting board from the local big box store and make me a partition. So I'll have 16 quarts of space for my drinks and my snacks and everything when I'm fishing, and I'll have 32 quarts of fish storing capability. If I catch something big, I just pull it out, set my divider on the side, just let the fish lay in here whole, and then also I'll always have me a little 10 by 12 cutting board with me. So the cutting board's 15 by 20 inches. That gives me enough to make 2 of these dividers out of one cutting board with a leftover strip. And I'll just cut it out with a regular skill saw with a wood cutting blade. So I got my cutting board piece all cut out, proper angles and a little chamfer on the edge so there's no sharp edges. It drops right in the depth chest. To keep it secured in the kayak, I just take some of the kayak bungee cord and put little S hooks on it, and I tie it right into the factory little tie down points on the transom of the kayak. So I got my new depth chest layout with all the rods on the left side, so I can go back to making overhead casts like that. I wasn't able to do that with the old setup because the rods were in the back. So I got 8 specks and 7 white trout in the depth chest. Good way to break it in.